We have the book corner, but I'm going to jump to something else because we have a few topics I want to discuss before we get into that, and we have some good topics to discuss today. So we're going to talk about first, just give some updates on what we've been doing over the past little while and kind of some of our plans for the future. So first of all, Principal Evolution, now we incorporated, so now we're officially a business. We're looking forward to doing some work where we are getting some government funding. I don't know if you guys were aware with the last budget that was put out. They're putting a lot of money towards people of color, specifically Black people, to support them in business. So we're trying to find a way to get some of that. So we incorporated as a not for profit. So we're planning on doing a lot of stuff. It's good that Dean's here too, because I know he's making courses. We're planning on working together because it doesn't make sense we all do the same thing, but we're all trying to achieve the same goal, right? So just educate our people to be better financially. So we're gonna do some partnerships. We have some other things coming down the line. We're working with also Jason John, possibly work an event space. We're trying to maybe co-open up with him. So there's some things going on there. So again, we put out the call to anybody that has skills that can help us move along as not even a business, but more of a not for profit to help our community become more financially stable and aware. So that the other thing I want to talk about is Gary, Indiana. So we have some big plans about Gary, Indiana. I should let Kelsey speak for a bit. We're doing a little. We're trying to move and make some progress in Gary. So you guys heard about all the tax lien properties we got there, mashup. So we're trying to find a way to fix them, put them on the market, or get them rental, or basically turn them from a liability into an asset, a cash flowing asset. I can let Kelsey talk a little bit about what's going on and kind of some of the plans we got.
Sure. Well, I'll just touch in kind of like a little update because again, that's one thing, as you know, like for us, we like to try and be transparent and at the same time share potential opportunities down the line. So right now we've kind of got ourselves into a couple of rehabs. Like, I'll be honest, like with people, everything I bought, now that I think about it, everything I bought, like real estate wise, except for two in my life, well, maybe three, have been with partners. So like mostly everything is partners. So that's I'm just saying that to say that what, we move along faster when we can do collective type of movements. So, anyways, me, Kevin, Carl, and Chosen, we're doing a rehab with one property in Terrytown, part of Gary, Indiana, right now. So we're looking, that one's rehabbing, going, the roof is on, the windows, the doors, the wrap, and then they're going to be kind of slowly moving inside to proceed with that. And then me, Carl, my other brother, have another property that's rehabbing as well, is a little bit further along. And again, so we're just really going through the process. And so then we come to a point where we'll be able to say, okay, you know what? We have this other house, it needs X amount of dollars. Who's interested in going into it? Maybe for a long-term rental, for a flip. Right now, we are doing a couple of flips to really get our hands wet in the market and to actually turn some properties so guys can actually see, okay, you know what, we went there, these guys actually went through the process of selling and so forth. And because people like money as well, right? People want to be able to see a profit. The long-term goals are, yes, to have long-term rentals and to have various rentals there as well, because again, passive income is obviously the way towards wealth. But at this point in time, we're just pushing through, and we'll be happy to report further news and as we go further along, potential opportunities as well. In the group, I posted with regards to like a 12 unit that was being sold. I think it's sold. I think it's contingent for sale right now. Just an example, a 12 unit selling for $300,000. It was fully occupied. It average rent was $700 per room in a 12 unit. I don't know if the math is around $10,000, $11,000 a month. Minus property fees, maintenance fees, $1,000. Your mortgage, I don't know how much mortgage you'd have, $1,000. Still, you're talking a large set of potential revenue streams. So again, these are some things that some of these markets in the U.S. that offer as well, the low valued market, so they say. But as we can see, as Carl can see, Chosen, Kevin, anyone else who's went or paying attention, that things are changing rapidly. And Canada, US, with regards to real estate, it's hot, right? There's not enough new builds out there. So people are climbing on anything they can. Tax liens, damaged house, rehabbed houses already. So again, really to say all in the bundle that we're really just pushing through. And again, those who are really interested, down the line, we're going to have something that we can say, okay, you know what? This is what it is. So just keep your ears open, pay attention, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, basically get ready because we're planning on doing multiple rehabs in Gary, Indiana. So if you're interested in that area, if you want to get in on a group like rental or purchase, just let us know. I think Dean's here. We should just get right into it because I have the feeling the second topic is going to be a long topic because black people don't like to talk about death, but we're going to talk about it today. So I'll let I guess Kelsey. I'll let Kelsey introduce because Kelsey wanted to talk about this from last week. I know Dean's making some moves with these Turo cars. I'm interested myself.
Definitely. Okay, so before we go through as well, Puff. So about like is it going to be the whoever talks it? They're going to be when the recorded version.
Oh, you want me to do that? Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah. So then we don't have like that. So then this way we can get.
Sounds good. So you're gonna do the intro?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. So we have Mr. Dean Chambers in here from the conglomerate of checks over strikes, and they're doing big things over there. Great moves that those brothers are doing over there as well. But I want to dig into the Turo. You guys must see Turo. People talking about Turo. If you're following a lot of things on social media, it's definitely one of those kind of Airbnb situations as well. I would kind of say equate to that. So I'm very interested in Turo because I'm ready to jump off the fence and just buy something tomorrow to start running it, just as taking a risk. So we have Dean here. Dean, welcome again to the platform. You're definitely not a stranger. Don't be shy. Introduce yourself. Let's see the Dean of this side, the Turo side.
What's going on, everybody?
What's up?
How's everybody doing? Yeah, so just Turo. So Turo, I got involved 5 years ago when it came to Canada. I was one of the early adopters. To be honest, I was probably like the 8th person on the platform. There was only 8 cars back in 2016, I think it was. Yeah, 2016. And I heard about it. I think I was just shopping for insurance online for my car that I just purchased. It was my dream car that I always wanted to buy. It was a Mercedes-Benz 2008 Mercedes-Benz CLS 550, I think it was, maroon with tan interior. So I was excited about to get that. That was like my dream car. So as I was shopping for insurance, I came across Intact, and it said they had Turo where you can rent your car. So I was like, rent your car? I was like, whoa. I didn't think we could do something like that. So I did my research on it, found out about it. I seen that it's been in the States for quite some time, especially like California, I think San Diego area, which pretty much that's where a lot of businesses start. It starts out in California and then everybody else gets it, right? So I reached out to the broker, or I reached out to Intact. I asked them about the Turo. They didn't even know about it yet. So I was kind of ahead of the game before the people in Turo actually, or the insurance agents knew about it. So after I went through that hurdle with them, I listed my car on there, and
Let's kind of maybe step back for a second, though, Dean. Maybe because some people may not be aware exactly what Turo is as well. I know you're going to, but like exactly what Turo is.
Mhm.
First of all, and I'll say quickly, when people used to call like you about Turo, I used to get entire hang up. I don't look up information of that call, dial tone.
Yeah, so Turo, as Kelsey said earlier, it's literally the Airbnb of cars. Like literally, that's exactly how I seen it. There's no other better way to put it. Like you literally have your car. At the time, it was just Uber, so you could use your car to drive Uber, make some money. But I didn't really. Uber was okay because I used to drive Uber as well, so I did that for quite some time. But then I was like, you know what? I'd rather my car make money and not me behind the wheel driving, because for me it takes a toll on my body, and I just didn't like driving so much. Like I started to have back problems after a bit with the car I had. So I said, you know what? Let me go look for. Well, once I purchased the car, and then I seen the Turo app. That's when I started to learn more about it, and it was pretty user friendly. It wasn't hard to list my car on there. I literally they give you step-by-step instructions on how to list your car. So um, I listed my car. I called back into. I had a friend that worked. Well, she was a insurance broker, so she kind of knew a bit more than Intact did. So I was like always in contact with her. So the number one question I know probably everybody has or that's going to ask or wants to ask is, what about the liability? Like, is your car covered? Yes, it's covered. So they cover up to like $2 million. So if someone does damage your car and you report it to them, they'll take care of your car. So I'll get to that later, but I've gone through everything from like dent into my car to write-offs, but I'll get into that later on in my journey. So as I got onto the platform, there was only literally 8 cars. Like, I'm not even lying. So I listed my car. I listed for like about $70, $80. It was pretty competitive. And within like 2 days, somebody booked my car. So I was like, whoa. I was like, okay. So they came to my house. They picked up the keys. I did the check-in. It literally walks you through the check-in. So you take pictures of your car. So the before and after. It's kind of like how insurance companies did it, but insurance companies usually walked around with you with a paper. So this, you just literally take pictures of the car, you walk around with the guests, let them know whatever visible damage that there is. You guys are in agreement, they take off with their car and then return it once they're done. So for me, I didn't really have any issues about somebody renting my car, as I never stay married to my vehicles. Like, as I started getting into Turo. It was my dream car, but I want my dream car to make me money so that I'm driving it for free, right? And so the guy returned the car, brought it back. There was no issues. Once I closed the rental, within I think at that time it took about 3 days to receive payment. So I got my payment through PayPal. It went directly into my account. I had no issues. After that, I started getting some more people booking that same car, where I was like, okay, this seems like it can be lucrative. So I was like, and because there wasn't that many cars on the platform, I was like, you know what, let me try to get another car and see what happens. So I got a cheaper car. I got a Hyundai Elantra. And
About how long after the initial one do you get the second one?
to be honest, a couple months. I don't like to wait. So
Yeah,
as I
really?
seen that car was doing good, I was like, oh, okay. So, and in the app, they also, it was so like user friendly where you could do so much within the app. They're like, do you want to deliver the car? So I was like, oh, okay. So I put delivery on. They said that would increase your rental your rental occupancy by like 10-15%. And even you can set your own hours too. So if you want to rent your car between like 9 and 5 o'clock for a pickup and drop off, that's your times. Even the days of the week, you can schedule those off too. Or you want to take the car off to get an oil change, you can delist the car for the time you're getting the oil change and then put it back onto the platform.
So when you do the drop off, how do you get back home?
Well, at that time I was taking Uber, but as I got more cars, I had to employ somebody. I couldn't do it anymore. So, but what you can do is, because you're getting paid for the delivery, you can set how far you want to go. So you do a radius of your postal code. So if you want to go up to 5 kilometers, then it's not really a killer for me to either walk home or take a Uber. You can go as far as I think 50-kilometer radius. I never did that because it was just too far. It didn't make any sense, and the rate I would be charging people would be ridiculous.
But
So,
Dean, sorry, man. When you
mhm.
say you employed someone, is that you employed like a driver, like a drop-off person?
Well, somebody to help me out. So to pick
Okay.
me up or even clean cars,
Okay, I got
because
you.
I got to a point where I had too many cars to manage by myself.
Yes, yes.
I got as high as 13 cars at one
Right.
point. So so yeah, after I got the second car, I noticed that I could do airport runs too because I'm not too far from the airport. So that's when things really changed for me, because so many people are coming in and out of the airport and they need car rentals. And the what's the word? Not quality. Not quality, but variety. The variety of cars that Turo has passes all car rentals out there. Like, because you only get like a certain type of cars. Like Enterprise is always like Nissan, or what's the other brand that they have over there? Uh,
Volkswagen something.
yeah,
Chevy.
Infinities, like, and Enterprise is usually the base model. So as people start to catch on to the Turo platform, and I as well was telling people about it because at that time they're giving like $25 credits for everybody that you refer. So I let everybody know that, like, hey, I got car rentals. And as they said, oh, if someone needed a car rental, I'll just send them the link. They sign up, they get the car, they're good to go, and then that's it. So after that, so I got to a point where my Hyundai was doing really well. I got rid of the Mercedes, and then I got a newer one. And the newer one that I got a white 2012 CLS 550. So with that one, because it was one of like the higher end cars, I could list it for more. So that car, I was listing it for, I think, $150 a day. And at that time, Turo was taking about 25% of what I make. And so once I got that car said was usually renting out on weekends. And then as more people got onto the platform, people started renting the car for weeks. Where I had one guy, he was renting the car for a month at a time. So
Ooh.
as I seen that, I was like, okay, you know what? I need more cars. So I ended up just purchasing more cars. Well, a little background about me. I have my dealership license, so I sell cars as well. So literally, as I see cars in the auction, I'm buying cars that made sense to put on to the platform. And I just followed a few guys on the platform. There was guys that were kind of way ahead of me. They had like 10, 12 cars. So as I seen what they were doing and how many ratings they had, I said to myself, okay, if they're doing these many ratings, how much money can I make off of these cars, right? So I got to a
What kind
point.
of cars were you buying at that point in time? What kind of cars were you buying? Like, after you sold the Mercedes and you have the other one, what kind of catapulted you to allow you to get to say that 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 vehicles riding? Like, which was there a set of vehicles that you would purchase, or just all different types of vehicles that you would purchase?
The first, I can't remember what year they started doing Turo events.
Okay.
And I had the white one. Then the white one got damaged. It got written off. And then I bought another one. So I bought a 2014 Mercedes CLS. And that one I started listing for 165 a day. So I think I was at two for maybe a year, the CLS and the Elantra, because the CLS was renting so well. I used the Elantra as like my backup car to drive. So after those two kind of, where it became very popular between those two, I had to get the third car because I couldn't drive those other two cars between all the work that I was doing at the time. And then when I came to the Turo event, they were letting us know more information about the company and what their goals were. And one guy reached out to me and he was just asking me what I'm doing and with Turo, and he's new to the city and he's just reaching out to all the Turo hosts. So at the time I had about 5-star rating. So he just wanted to reach out to me. And then when we had the event, it was about a year afterwards. They were telling us the most popular cars on the platform. And the Hyundai Elantra was one of the top 5 cars. So I was like, okay, so if this is one of the top 5 cars, I gotta get more of these cars. So I ended up getting another Hyundai Elantra. So I had 2 at the time. And they were telling us what the top 5 cars that were rented, and mine was number 2 behind this guy.
Let me ask a quick question and kind of before you go on. Just were these finance? You're buying them cash? Were they older? Is there a year limit for the vehicles? What kind of was your?
The Mercedes was financed, so it was literally paying for itself. So I was like, hey, I'm driving a car for free, so I don't care. I'm driving a nice car. I don't have to pay for it. It's not a liability in my pocket, right? So that car literally paid for itself. The Elantra, I bought that cash. Yeah, so literally my Uber money just got transferred to the car, and I just let that car continue to make me money. So that I bought cash, and then so when I found out that my car was the top car from top 5 cars that was being rented, I was just behind a Porsche. This guy had a Porsche 911, a blue one. So he was the top of the platform. Mine was number 2. I wasn't too far behind him. And I kind of just started following what his model was. And then I learned about the Turo calculator. So if you Google like Turo calculator, it's kind of out of date. But if you go look for like older cars, from 2017 and older. And if you put Toronto in, you can see how much cars will make per day. And it was pretty accurate. Like if you're somebody new, it would be pretty accurate for you to gauge how often your car was renting. But what I was, because I was I was only like one of the popular guys on the app. I noticed that mine was a bit higher. So if it said rental 6, I could estimate I would get 10 rentals out of the car. So I started doing that and just doing my math behind the cars. It's like, okay, how much to rent the car? How much am I going to pay for insurance? And numbers were making sense. So a little hack for you guys. What I did is, instead of just buying cars from other dealers or the auction because the price was competitive, I started buying cars from Impact, the Smash auction. So, but it has to be non-salvage. That's one thing about Turo. They don't take salvage cars or rebuilt. So it had to be non-branded. So what I was doing was buying cars from there because it was cheaper. So it became my new business model where I would buy the cars and then list them on the thing because I could get them at a cheaper price. So I just fixed them myself and then just use them as rentals. So as I just found cheap cars, I'd put them on a platform. And then I kind of started testing the water with like older vehicles and to see how they would do. But then what was noticing with the feedback was everybody wants Bluetooth connection, and older cars don't have that. So I was like, you know what? I can't be bothered with this, or something the older cars didn't have, because you could go up to 12 years old within what do I mean by non-branded? So if your car gets into an accident, it could either be, so if you look on the ownership, it would just say fit, or no, I think it's Kelsey.
Rebuilt.
Correct me.
It's rebuilt.
Rebuilt is if the car was in a bad accident and the structure was damaged, and they fixed it, and they have to get a additional safety to say that it's been rebuilt. And if the car, so the car would be salvaged first and then become rebuilt. But if your car got into an accident, like a fender bender or whatever, and it got reported, your car would just be non-branded still.
Non-branded, but they brand so many as salvage now. I mean, I haven't worked in a year, but in the
Mhm.
last like 2 years, because they want to ramp up getting older cars apparently off the road.
Yeah,
Most like, trust me, like everything they actually brand
yeah.
salvage.
And usually they would deem cars as salvage if like an airbag goes, but nothing
Right, right,
really
right. But then again,
that
you
bad.
do have a lot of financial total loss as well, where costs stay true. Yeah, way
Yeah,
more to repair than to just pay out. So
yeah,
everything's paid out as well. So I can see where you get the vehicles.
yeah. So I also look for theft recovery too. So it's like the older theft recovery is very, very dangerous. So that's just a disclaimer, because if it's a newer vehicle, like one time I purchased a car by an accident, and it was a 2000, I think 18 Lexus RX 350, and it was theft recovery, but I purchased it by an accident. So when I purchased the car and I got it, it came back down here. None of the computers were working. I brought it to the Lexus dealership. They told me it's about $7,000 to replace the computer. So I just took the car, put it back in the auction. I was like, I can't afford to pay $7,000 for these computers. So if you do purchase a theft recovery, just make sure it's not something that has a lot of computers in it, because to replace computers is very, very hefty, and there's no way around it. You have to go to the dealership for that. But as time progressed, for me, because my dealership, I like to sell high-end cars, like the luxury cars. So I started to purchase BMWs and Mercedes. So I got lucky with one BMW. It had very, very low clicks, and I purchased it from the Impact again. It had, what did I think I replaced the engine, but the engine, when I replaced it, it wasn't as much as the price of the car was on the road today, and it only had 44K on it. So it was a 2013. When I purchased that car rented so much. I was like, I got to keep getting higher end cars, because the money that I'm making on them is way better than the Elanchas, because I was making maybe $30-40 a day, but on those cars I'm making about $70 on those cars. And another good thing about Turo at the time, but they changed the rules now, we were able to set how much we can charge per kilometer if you go over.
Yeah, I heard that's a big change. A lot of people are complaining about.
Yeah, like that was one of like our bread and butters, because if somebody goes over those kilometers, like I had one guy almost pay me like $1,500 for going over in
Wow.
kilometers. And then they changed it because a lot of people are complaining. But you also have to keep in mind, there's a lot of wear and tear going on in our cars, right? So that helps with the repairs and compensates us. But they took that away from us. So they have a standard rate now. It's not the greatest, but you still get something, right? So that and also Turo does compensate you for gas if they don't return it where it should be. And what they implemented now is they put an inconvenience on there. So if they bring it, it's like $20 gas, they'll give you an extra $10 for the inconvenience. So they give you for gas, they fully reimburse you for that. Tickets and tolls, they fully reimburse you for that. And cleaning fees. So if you do go on the app, I would suggest take pictures inside the car as well, just to eliminate the back and forth with Turo, because I've had somebody damage the side door of my car with their bike, but I didn't take a picture inside of it. But the guy knew he did it, and Turo's like, no, we can't fault him for that because you don't have pictures, the before and after pictures. So that's just a thing. Just take pictures inside because you never know what can happen. I got a 2017 Elantra. The first day I rented it, the guy rented it for a week, and then he burnt the cigarette butt burnt my seat. And because I didn't take a picture, they didn't want to reimburse me for it. So just always take pictures because you never know what
But
can
how
happen.
many pictures do you take for your vehicle? Like 25, 30, about how many pictures do you take for your vehicles before they go out?
You can take four, 5. They say 9, but you can take a bit more just to be on the safe side. Like if you have
Would
rims
video
on,
suffice?
yeah, now you can do video. Before it was, but you can't upload it onto the app. But you just want to kind of timestamp it. But yeah, just taking the pictures. If you do have rims on your car and you're worried about curb rashes, take pictures of the rims. So let them know. For me, I wasn't so picky about it because these cars I wasn't gonna keep for long anyways. Like if it was the higher end cars, then I'd make a stink about it. But like if it was donut rims or like standard Elantra rims, I could care less. Like anything happens, right? But if it's like a Mercedes rims, like those are a bit more high end and hard to replace, and they're a lot, or they're a lot to replace. So
If you guys have any questions, just put the questions in or just, whatever. But I have a zillion questions to ask. I know Dean kind of cut off your story. But like for the people who are looking to kind of, interested, people are always looking for different income streams and so forth. Like the person who's willing to start to just buy a vehicle to have it as a designated tour vehicle, to the person who may want to doesn't drive their vehicle often but may want to use it. But the person who wants to dedicate themselves into Turo and buy another vehicle, what kind of tips would you give someone kind of starting off? What have you seen work? What have you seen kind of people really bump their foot on that you say, you know what, definitely don't go that direction? Because you may mention about older car and newer car, but is there a balance, a medium, the type of vehicle that is high demand? What's the oldest car that can be driven? That's another question. The age of vehicles that can be used.
2009 right now is the
Okay.
oldest car you can list on there. Yeah, 12 years old. 2009 this year. 2008 was last year. So Turo sent out a thing. The top 5 popular cars from what I can remember was Toyota Corolla. I think Hyundai Elantra got bumped, but it's still popular. Honda Civic, Mercedes Benz. One that kind of blew me out the water was Dodge Caravan. Like that one, I was shocked. So I ended up getting one, but COVID happened, so I kind of threw my plans.
They're actually pretty good on gas for family trips and camping and those. So those are the go-tos for those.
Yeah. If you know the car is a problem, well, I would say do your research on the car first. And if it's one of those problematic cars, but it's cheap, stay away from it. Like when I used to take Ubers, and I would ask them how their car was, because I know they put a lot of kilometers on them, right? So like Kias are not the greatest. Like Kia Optimas, I would stay away from those cars. What else are trouble cars? BMWs, depending on which model you have. 3 Series is probably like the best one out of all the BMWs. I had a 6 Series. It didn't rent that well. There was another car that really caused a lot of issues. I can't remember it off the top.
So if a car breaks down, what happens? Like when somebody's rented it?
Turo has a number you can call, and then they'll get a tow truck to pick up the car and bring it to wherever it needs to go. I want to say they're 24 hours, but no, they're 24 hours in the States, not here. So at like 8, 9 o'clock, I think they close. They keep updating their hours, but Canada's so far behind the States. It's like they're trying, but they need to
I
try
was going
harder.
to mention because in the US you can actually lease cars. Like I see it, I'm in some groups
Mhm.
where people actually lease brand new. I just seen a lady get a brand new Porsche truck
Mhm.
under her LLC with no personal guarantee. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, like, I don't even think you can even try to do anything like that here.
Yeah, for me, because I have my dealership license, I got introduced to financing through the auction. So they finance cars to dealers to they call it a floor plan. So you can,
Adessa?
yeah, but shoot, what's their name? I haven't used them in so long now. Um, AFC dealers. So this is something that if you want to expand, you can reach out to these guys. Um, they're based in the States, but they have their location here as well. So with them, they let me know that they can finance rental cars. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's kind of how I expanded with my rentals. I went through them. So they gave me a line where I could just purchase cars. I have about 2 years to pay off the vehicles. And so what I would do is I'd rent them out. If it's getting to that mark, then I sell the car and then go on to the next car. And that's how I was getting the higher end cars to rent on Turo as well.
Is there a certain kilometer that you try to stay into? I know people don't want like they want to get in a high end car and see 300,000 kilometers on it.
For the standard now is 300. Before when I first came on, it was 125, and then they put it to 200. Now the standard's 300. If it's a higher end value car, I think 55,000 and above, it could be 200 a day. But you can also cap for the week as well. So you can say 200 a day, maybe 1,000 for the week, whatever it may be. Sorry, Kelsey, what was the other question you had for me?
I think chosen. They're gonna answer. I think Alcia put another question there. Oh, she asked, how
Oh,
where do
where
you
do I
park
park my
all your
cars?
vehicles?
So what I did is I had a few spots. Luckily for me where I live, my street doesn't they don't tag cars, so I just literally use the street as like my parking lot, and my driveway is pretty big, so I could fit up to five of my cars that I was renting at the time. And that was the next thing I did. I calculated how long cars were out, so that's kind of why I kept pushing for more and more cars. Because like, all right, if this car's gone for like about 3 weeks, then let me get another car to replace that car in the meantime, right? And then there was a guy that was detailing my car, so then I started getting spots from him. So I would just rent out spots from him and then just leave my cars there, because I got to a point where it couldn't fit on my driveway in the street anymore. I kind of had to just maneuver around. I did have another spot, but it didn't work out with the guy. I didn't like the setup of where it was, so I just kind of canned that. I was going to expand last year, but COVID happened and kind of threw a wrench in my plans. So
Kind of
I
touch on that for a second too. Oh,
mm,
sorry, we had another question. What was the other question we had here?
do people renting a car? No, they don't have to have insurance. So the way insurance works with Turo, I think you have to be 25 or older. I can't remember if you're younger, they add a premium to the rate that they charge, but that goes to Turo.
I
And
think they block out certain cars, like if you're under 25 or something like that. Like
yeah,
some of the
they have deluxe or something like that. So I think it's car they would have to be around 30,000 or 50,000, I think. So those cars they couldn't rent. You had to be about 30 plus to rent those cars. So that and yeah, so you don't have to have insurance, but you choose which insurance you want through Turo. So you can decline insurance if you do have insurance, like say on your credit card, that'll cover rental insurance. Or you choose one of their packages. I think they have three models, three tiers. There's a basic, then the one above that, and then the super. So basic was if you get into an accident, I think the
deductible.
the yeah, deductible is about $3,000, and then the next one's about 500, and then the other one you don't pay anything. So that's
No.
the tiers that they have for that.
The higher you pay, then the less or zero deductible that you have, basically.
Yeah, as the renter. But as
So
for us, so there's two ways You can list your cars as a company and have your own policy, but with Canada, it's very hard to get your own insurance policy. There's only one company that gives you that. That's Beard and McGregor, but Beard and McGregor doesn't allow retail rentals, only insurance replacement. So if you do find somebody, then you found a loophole. But I've been searching for 5 years. I haven't found anybody. So I use their insurance. So anything that happens to my cars, I go directly through them.
Dean, you mentioned that I guess a lot of your renters come from the airport or what have you, because you're pretty close to the air. Is that most of your guys, or do some of yours come from in town, or what's the mix type of thing?
So I was doing about 50% airport because I'm so close. I was one of the closer guys, but there were guys that weren't near the airport that were doing pretty well. Downtown does really well. There was a lady, she's in town. She's not downtown, but I forget exactly what area she's in. But she had frequent renters. Like if you're within like the GTA, like along the 401, you did pretty well with Turo. It's the outskirts that's a bit. It's not. I wouldn't say. It all depends on the market out there. Like Brampton or Markham, there could be a niche out there. I can't really speak for those areas because I'm not out there, but it's not as frequent as in town, because there's a lot of people that are looking to rent cars to just drive to A to B, because a lot of people I would call them suburbs have cars, so they're not really looking. But I have dropped off cars to like Brampton, Markham, Mississauga, everywhere I've been. Yeah.
Can you pick and choose who you rent it to, or is that just strictly through Turo?
You can pick and choose, but it gets to a point where it's like, hey, like you're declining too many people. So they won't force you, but they'll let you know like you're declining too many, and it'll go against your rating.
Sorry, I had a question specifically around the insurance. So you would have insurance on the car when you have the car in your possession, but when somebody rents it, the insurance is through Turo?
Yeah. So how it works is, as the person books it, and so what time is it? So say 8:00 their rental starts. That's when Turo's insurance starts. That kicks in. So even if you're on a delivery, Turo's insurance takes over. So you get to the thing, you give them the car. Now Turo's insurance is on it until the time that they give you back the car, and then you're back to your policy.
So like kind of since the COVID situation, so kind of because anyone looking to get into now, like since COVID, we're hoping this opens up and so forth. But since the COVID and the kind of slowdown, have it changed your business model any whatsoever? Because I know you're doing a lot of airport where there's probably less. How's that kind of been? Or
to be honest, COVID killed my airport business. I have nobody from the airport anymore. Like nobody's coming in renting cars. If this is something you want to get into, if you already have a vehicle, great. If you're looking to get into it, wait till COVID dies down before jumping into this market, because you don't know when it's going to end, right? And you don't want to, if you're financing it or even buying it, you don't want to really be tying up your cash. So I would say wait till things seem to get back to normal before doing anything. Because right now we're on lockdown, so like I would say 90% of people don't even leave their house. So it doesn't make any sense to buy a car or finance a car for the purpose of Turo.
So who do you find renting your vehicle now? Most people who need to get A to B or traveling up and down, or
yeah, just A to B. It's previous renters that know me from before, so they've I got like about 3-4 guys that just rent on every so often. So, and then I have the one random that would probably rent it for like a week or two. But yeah, so a lot of things have changed. So I kind of downsized just to wait till things get back to normal before ramping it back up. Because last year I wanted to hit 20 cars, but COVID just really put a spin on me.
I think it's gonna bust once it opens up, man. Because I'm watching you guys watching those stuff and it's happening in the States, and it's like people are like killing it. Like the Turo thing is just like killing the places where it's opened up and so forth. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's another thing. High-end cars you have to be very careful about, because as you mentioned, the States, Americans like just love to spend money on any and everything, right? So Here it's a bit different where I've had a few high-end cars and it didn't rent as I thought it would. So high-end cars, just be careful of what you buy. And if you do want to go high-end, the highest you can go is 100. The market value can only be $105,000. Anything over that, they won't pay for it if your car was to get damaged.
Any feedback, or have you heard anything on Tesla rentals specifically?
Just gonna say about Tesla.
Teslas are amazing. Like I have nothing bad to say about Teslas. Like that's one of the top cars as well. The Model 3 is like one of the most popular cars right now. Like it was so popular. Turo was sending blasts to like all the hosts and saying, hey, if you buy a Tesla, we'll give you $300 credit for as an incentive. But Teslas do really, really well. Teslas are like one of the top cars, especially the Model 3.
So you're saying they only cover up to 105,000? So if you put a car that's worth more than that, it's your own risk.
They'll up to the 500,000. Then after that, you're gonna have to fight with your insurance.
So 105,000, you said, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I see a Porsche and it looks way more than that, and I saw
Yeah,
Model Z on there. There's way more than that.
What about the Prius? I can't do a Tesla yet. What about the Prius?
If you're gonna go Prius, you might as well go Corolla. Like, don't waste your time with a Prius. just stick with the Corolla. Yeah. But Elantras, Corollas, and Hondas for like a starter car is does really well, and you can find decent cars or decent. Oh, another thing is your car needs to be under 200 kilometers. Anything over 200, you can't list on the platform.
200,000 has to be under 200,000 kilometers.
Yeah, but if your car reaches 200,000, it's already on the platform. It'll get grandfathered. Same thing with a 2009 car.
So they grandfather age vehicles as well, Dean? Because I swear I seen like 2007 car on Turo right now and so forth. Like,
yeah, so that car was on from like 2 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can grandfather cars.
So when you purchase your vehicles, what kind of mileage do you look for on the cars?
If it's higher end cars, I try to stay under 100,000. If it's just the regular cars, 170-ish, I wouldn't pass. But you have to know your vehicles, right? So 170 on like a Hyundai, Honda, or Corolla, I know that car will hit 400, or 400. So I don't have to worry about those cars. But if it's something that you're unsure about, like a Ford Fusion, I don't know if that car will even hit 200. So you don't want to go to a car that you don't know too well, right? And also, if you have a mechanic, ask your mechanic's opinion on the car before purchasing, right? Because they know cars better than anybody. Jeep, what's the Jeep called?
I think it was Wrangler. Was it Wrangler?
Yeah, I
thought Wrangler was one of the top ones.
It's not the top ones, but it's a popular one. Yeah.
So have you been lowering your day costs to get people to rent? I see a lot of people looking a little cheaper now.
Yeah, it's really cheap now. I knocked off mine a bit. So, there's a thing in Turo that has a price estimator. So you can either set your own price or they'll set the price for you. So you tell them, this is the cheapest amount that I'll take for my car, and this is the most expensive I'll charge for my car. So I use that. So I'll put the lowest price, and then whatever they put, then I just go with that. So at the moment, because I only have 4 cars now, I just leave it at the price I have it at right now. And then I just have the discount. So you can give people a 3-day discount, 1 week, 3-day, 1 week, 1 month discount, or weekend. So yeah, there's a weekend discount, 1 week, and then the monthly discount. So you can give discounts as well to attract people for your cars.
What's the average time you find people are renting out these cars for? Is it like 5 days, a week, a couple weeks?
The cheaper ones, usually weekends, you'll get a lot of people. Usually Friday to about Monday. So about 3 or 4 days. So wintertime is very slow. Summertime is very, very hot. Like you won't even be able to hold on to your car. Especially if you have good customer service and you take care of your car really well, you will barely see your car.
And in terms of in terms of maintenance and stuff like that. So insurance, I understand. Maintenance. Now, let's say somebody takes out your car for 3 weeks. In the course of that 3 weeks, how does that sort of thing?
Sorry, you cut out there. Can you repeat that?
I'm saying, let's say you rent out your car. It's a longer term rental, and let's say the car needs some maintenance. I don't know, oil change, tire blows, or something like that. What typically happens in that situation?
If the tire blows, they'll call Turo, and then you get them to drop the car to your mechanic. Some people, wherever they are, they'll just get it done. It all depends on you and the renter, right? Maintenance, if you know, well, what you can do is if somebody books your car, so there's two ways to list your car, either automatic booking or you got to accept the trip. So if you see that someone's going to book your car for 3 weeks, get the oil change done if you're going to do it next week. Don't wait till they bring it back, right? So that's what you do. For me, I have automatic booking, which increases my rentals. So, and then I also have how much time they give me to give them the car. So I have 1 hour set. So you kind of want to be proactive. So if you wait till the last minute, then you're literally going to have to run to a mechanic, try to get that done. And if your mechanic's busy, then you're going to have to go like Canadian Tire, and Canadian Tire charges like an arm and a leg to get the oil change done. So you just want to kind of be proactive of those things before those issues arise. People that have rented my cars long term, I just check in every so often, be like, hey, can you just send me the odometer, because God knows how many kilometers they're going to do. Sometimes it kind of scares me. It's like, oh, this person doesn't do like 5,000 kilometers in a month. So I just tell them, hey, send me a picture of the odometer so that I can gauge what's going on with my car if it needs to go in for servicing. With contactless drop off. I don't have any issues with the contactless drop off. So what I would do is I take the pictures, I leave the keys in the cup holder, let them know. I kind of talk to them from a distance, wear my mask, and let them know whatever about my car. Once my car comes back, I just sanitize everything, the handles. They give you like the safety sheet that tells you the hot spots of a vehicle, and then I just wipe down everything once I get back in my car.
So Dean, with the what did you call automatic booking?
Yeah.
So how does that work now? So someone just goes online, they book it, and your thing automatically accepts it?
Yeah.
Within an hour notice?
I put an hour notice, but you can put up to
notice.
like 3 hours. You can put even like a day's notice.
So what happens after that? So let's say you're elsewhere. Like how does that work? Like what's your system for that?
I gotta fly back.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm always on the go. So for me, I would say 2019, like my life was just around Turo. It's just like I just made sure my phone was closed. It got to a point where my rentals were getting so ridiculous. Like I had it like 24 hours, and somebody really booked at like 2-3 in the morning. I was like, is this guy serious? So I had to change the whole time that I rent cars out, because he was calling me, and he even sent me things like, hey, I'm here and the car's not here. And I was like, who rents a car at like 2 in the morning? I was like, people sleep at that time, bro. So I kind of changed my times to make sure I can sleep. And then once I wake up, then I know it's go time. So that's what I did. And I was going to mention, Turo also has extras on there. So what you can do is have unlimited kilometers. You can charge either per trip or per day. You can charge for car seats, strollers, beach towels, pre-cleaning. They have a list of stuff you can go through, but you could literally just put that on there as extras, and then they'll pay you for that as well. From those extras, they take 10% of the earnings, and then the rest you keep.
It's not bad at all. Hey, so Dean, so we've been talking mostly about Turo, but like, have you used any of the other car hire programs? I'm not sure what they have here in Canada. The other ones, I forget the name, but have you used any of those car hire programs?
No, I've heard about them, but it seems that they're only really downtown, and I found it was like the bigger companies doing it, like Enterprise, where you could just pick up the zip cars or whatever. So I know a few people used to use them, but it wasn't as popular as Turo. I don't know if it's because they're marketing or if it was just focused. It was downtown concentrated. No, I didn't use Lockbox, but one of the ladies that was one of the top hosts, she uses Lockboxes and they work really well. About the Tesla and certain smart cars, you don't even need to be there. You just literally lock your car and unlock from your phone. So you can leave the key there, they pick it up, and then they go. they can pick up your car. They were introducing Turo Go, where you can unlock from the phone, but they only gave it to a few users on the platform. And I think COVID also slowed that down as well, so they didn't really fully launch it out.
So explain the lockbox for us. What is
Lo-
that?
Lockbox, so you just have a code. Like, so some people, they, if it's like their house, they would just have a lockbox set up outside. Or no, what some people do is you can put it on the car. So one guy I rented from, he gets the lockbox you can put onto the car window. You roll up the window, and they'll send you the code. You take the key out, then you get the key, and then you go. And then when you're done, you just take the same lockbox, put it on the window, put the key back in, just do the code, and then you go. It's just like real estate when you're purchasing the houses and they give you the lockbox code.
There's a question there. You mentioned BMW models giving trouble or not. Popular X5.
No, I had a five. No, I had a 6 Series, not a 5 Series. 5 Series in general is not a good car. And me knowing cars, like my cousin had one, and a few other people had it. And when you have issues with that car, it's a nightmare. That and the 7 Series. Those are the X5 is not as bad, or it doesn't. It's not as bad, but it uses the same engine as those. So I'd be careful with the X5.
You don't see much 7 Series on the road right now, to be honest with you. How many?
I'm sorry, anybody that has that car, it's a junk car. Just get rid of it. It makes no sense to have it.
You're talking about the 7 Series?
What I find,
Yes.
what I find is there's a lot of people that buy, because a lot of people lease. They beat those cars up a lot and then turn it back in after the lease. So they then end up buying with a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Like if you're buying from a dealership where somebody was maintaining, all the records are there, it's different. But then buying like auction cars, I find most of them they're beat up pretty bad.
It's hit and miss because some people take real good care.
Exactly.
Some don't even care. And if you're thinking about leasing the car for Turo, don't do it because your kilometers they'll run up your kilometers, and then when you return that, you're gonna have a hefty bill. So don't lease your car if you're gonna be using it for Turo, or if it's a lease car, don't use it for Turo because your kilometers are capped per year.
All right, so we're getting to that time. We're about to switch topics. Are there any other last questions that we have? Toro sounds like I'm already looking at my dream car and see if I can get it.
What other basic tips? Because we're always trying stuff. We're looking for the Dodge coin. We're looking for this, that, and the third. But I'm dead serious, man. I'm about to roll some dice with the Turo thing, anyways. But for people in general, like it can't be a home run overnight. There's obviously has to be that grind. It has to be that customer service. What kind of general tips with regards to getting into, especially with the slowdown now, and we don't know really when the lockdowns, hopefully in the next month or so, hopefully, but really and truly, you don't want to dive into something and then end up being negative. So if someone's looking to get into this thing, what kind of tips, ending out tips could you provide or feedback would you say as well?
Treat every rental as if it was a long-term rental. Just keep your car clean in and outside. Like I usually, as somebody rents my car, there's a coin wash right around the corner from me. If you know where the closest coin wash is, utilize it. Or if you do it at home, just keep your car as clean as possible. And just it's customer service, because the better your ratings are, or people leave comments. That's what I found. A lot of people came to me. They're like, "Oh, I read your reviews, and people just raved about you and blah blah blah, so I had to rent your car." So literally, it's almost like the Google reviews. People are checking the reviews to see if they actually want to do business with you, and just it's customer service. If you can maintain exceptional customer service, people will just keep coming back to you. Yeah.
Another question here. So you mentioned you were or you currently are in a hot zone. If you're not in a hot zone, let's say you're on the outskirts or something like that, is it more advisable to offer delivery then?
Yes.
In terms of the customer?
Yeah. Delivery, because let's just use Markham for instance. Transit doesn't run that often. The Uber, just figure out, it's like, okay, where's this person coming from, or set your radius on how far you would want to go from your house, and then just include that in your delivery fee, and just be available to deliver the car to people.
Or you could partner with people that are closer in the city, like by the airport, and we could make a deal and ting like me.
I think they do have that as well, where you can put that as an extra, where it's you don't have to drop off at the same location, so they can drop it off somewhere else, and then you pick up the car. So that's something else that you could use as well.
Yeah, and I have enough parking spaces too.
Yeah.
I'm hungry, man. I would drive cross town to start that thing off, man. That's just the way it goes. Like, there has to. I think the realistic thing in this, Dean, like the way you sounded, and you have that calm demeanor as well, is like, people have to realize that I'm pretty sure you'll attest to. It's a grind.
Yeah. It took me a while to find out what my formula was, what my secret sauce was, and how I could scale it. Right. So you just got to just keep working at it to get better at it. Right. Because the more you do it, the better you're gonna get at it. Oh, Turo also it'll tell you like hotspots. Like Markham Go Station or something. So if you're close enough to there, you can say your car can be dropped there, right? So that's another thing. There's checkpoints where you can drop your car off. So even if you're in Markham, you can say I'll deliver to Billy Bishop Airport. So that's another way to get people to rent your car. So that's what I did to get the downtown market. I would say, all right, meet me at Billy Bishop, and then they usually say, oh, I'm like 10 minutes away. But be careful when they tell you 10 minutes away, because 10 minutes can be half an hour driving. So just be kind of wary of that when they tell you that.
Get the address.
Yeah.
All right. We want to switch over to another topic. Again, thank you so much, Dean, for spending the time. We got a lot of knowledge. I bet you there's a few people in here thinking about getting a luxury car and renting it on Turo.
Well, hit me up, man. I sell them. So if you're looking for a car, I'll help you find one.
Good. And he's also in the group. You can get him at Checks Over Stripes. Remember, he also has a financial education book support. Dean Chambers, we always post the stuff on Instagram too. We're going to be doing a lot of work with Dean. I like how he's moving. He has a lot of experience, and he's taking massive action. He's taking action and doing. That's the key, and that's the reason why we're trying to do this. So to make people take a risk. How much can you really lose?
Bet on yourself.
Take a risk. Take a risk.
Bet on yourself.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Fred Van Vliet. Yeah. They got mashup. They're out to play out. Well, anyways, I respect Dean. Thank you so much. He's going to be back again. I know we're going to be doing a lot of work together, so thank you so much for that. If you want more information on Turo, please reach out to him, because it's good to ask people who have the experience, because it can get you a lot further and quicker. Again, remember, you don't always have to do it yourself. You can always partner. That's why we bring this bunch of group together, these people together, so we may be able to partner and do things together, so you don't have to take all the risk yourself. Again, thank you so much.
Or if you're sitting beside your brother, your sister, your spouse, or whatever, just say, hey, come on, it's time. Let's jump into something. Let's jump.
Yeah. And if you have a big car you're paying big money for, maybe this is what you could do to reduce some of your expenses.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So thank you again for that.
No problem.
So, in the transition now, this is a topic we may even go a little over, because this is something that we need to talk about, especially as Black people. So, we're going to talk about something that we never like to talk about. I know Black people never like to talk about, and it's death. They say the duppy's coming for them, or they're going to die if they talk about it. But it's something that we all need to discuss, because there's also a big financial impact to those that you leave behind, whether it's your kids, your spouse, any dependents, or even the family. You can help out your family, move your family along, because you can allow your family to grieve. There's a lot of things you need to prepare for. And the one thing that I hate to see is when people pass away and they send out a GoFundMe expecting the community or somebody else to support your family. Everybody knows you're going to pass away. Just plan for it. And there's simple things you could do to plan for it, but you need to sit down with maybe like an insurance agent, like we have Damian here. We also have Minnelle here to talk to about the funeral costs. As people think, oh, I don't have dependents, so I don't need to have insurance, so I don't need to leave any money for nobody. But what happens is it's a big cost just to put you down, to bury you, to buy coffin, if you're like somewhere foreign and not even in Canada, to fly you back here. So you're putting that burden on your family. So this is something I would love to talk about, especially as Black people, because if you even talk to insurance agents, they say specifically Black people do not buy insurance. And if you just think about that, they even move. They don't try to sell to Black people because they know Black people don't buy it. Black people don't talk about it. Black people don't support it. And now what you're doing, you're not passing that wealth on to the next generation or your dependents or your spouse or whoever is around in your family. If you look at like the Filipinos, you look at any Asian families, they're 100% insurance. They always have insurance because they know, like, everybody's gonna die. So at some point, why not leave the next generation at least something they could build on or use to move forward? So this is a serious conversation. So I have Damian here to talk about specifically life insurance. Again, life insurance will show you different kinds of life insurance and the purpose of it, because we can't be here talking about how we're going to build ourselves financially and build generational wealth when we don't have a foundation of life insurance. We don't insure the most important thing in our lives, and that's yourself. Everybody has car insurance. Everybody has house insurance if you have a house. Some people even have rental insurance on their items, which is not even worth as much as you. Some people have insurance on their phones. But when you talk about life insurance, it's a big thing. Then we also have Minnelle here to talk about the process of when somebody dies, all the costs and everything that has to be done after. So this is something we should talk about as a people to understand that we're set up. And the last thing I didn't talk about, sorry, I think Minnelle, maybe Damien will talk about it too, the importance of a will. How we should all have a will to make sure that our assets are passed as we decide them. Because otherwise they're going to go into probate and the government's going to take their cut before your family gets there. So first I want to pass it on to Damian Alexander. Again, thank you for coming. Damian's been here before. He talked about some insurance and investing with us before. I welcome him again. I just made you host, so you should be able to post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hi, everyone. Well, thank you, Kevin, for taking every single talking point I had about life insurance. You took every single one of them.
I just gave a
What
quick
am I going to
rundown.
talk about now? I'm playing. I'm just joking around. Thank you for having me. Now, I just wanted to quickly, I'm not going to be quick, but let me just talk a little about life insurance. Now, I want to say that every single person on this call is paying for the life insurance that they need. Now, it may not be coming out of your bank account right now, or you may not have that physical policy in your cabinet, but you are paying for it. Either you pay for the premium now, or your family pays for the price with a lower standard of living. Right. So, for example, if you were to buy $1 million worth of life insurance and your family really needed $3 million, then your survivors are going to have to figure it out and they're going to be forced to make do with less. So that means less income, that means less comfort, and that also means less financial security. Now, I have so many different examples being in the industry so long of people who hesitated on getting life insurance and decided to delay. So one example is I had a client, their net family income was just over $100,000. The husband dies, and now his wife has to make do. She has 2 kids, and she had to basically sell her house, get a smaller house, and kind of move on from there. So now if she had life insurance, at least bare minimum, she'd be able to keep the family home together. I also have people in my circle that, like Kevin said, have the GoFundMe option, right? So they don't really think about it. I have a friend that her brother recently passed away of COVID, and she's scrambling doing a GoFundMe, and that's all she could do because he didn't have any life insurance. So don't think just because you have it that your family is automatically safe. Somebody's going to have to take care of that burden. Another funny situation, I actually met this Guyanese guy, and you would never think what his occupation was. He was actually a guy that sold wedding dresses. So he had a wedding dress shop, and actually it's him and his partner that owned the wedding shop, and his partner passed away. But his partner named his corporation part of the beneficiary. So that money flowed through to his corporation and help fund that corporation and keep it alive, right? So he came to me for insurance. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I'm glad that your partner thought of that. He said, yeah, I'm thinking of doing the same. We're doing the back and forth. You know, I don't hear from him for, a couple months. And I'm like, okay, I guess he doesn't want it. Maybe three months later, his loved ones are calling me and saying, hey, we were going through his emails and we saw that he was talking about life insurance. I was like, ugh. You know, it's such a difficult conversation to have with a loved one that's searching for that, you know, extra money or that extra benefit, and they don't have it. So I had to tell her, look, he didn't end up purchasing it. And she's like, oh my God, you know? So things like that you got to look out for. In my opinion, life insurance is the most unselfish purchase that you ever make, right? It's like buying a gift for someone that you love. And by definition, you'll probably never see them open that gift, right? But it will help them. It's like that's life insurance in its purest form. That's why a lot of people that don't really feel for life insurance, I don't really do business with them, because that shows me that you're somewhat selfish in a sense, right? You're not thinking about your loved ones or the future, right? But in saying all that, I just want to get to life insurance is just one component of your overall financial plan. You got to have a plan, right? So let me just quickly show you. Just want to share my screen here.
Yeah, while Damian's doing that, I want to take a poll. Who here has life insurance?
You're gonna put it in the poll?
I just want to put, yeah, I just want to make sure I see who has life insurance to show it's good. I want to see black people with life insurance. It's good because it's very important. It's very important.
I spoke to my guy yesterday to increase mine.
Yeah, I just had a son and I increased it just for that too.
Excuse me.
Like it's good not to just have it once, but always to go back and think about, you know, where you are now in life. You may need to get more. But go ahead, Damian.
Okay. Do you see this pyramid? I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Okay, so this pyramid is basically, and I know I want to kind of break it down into, this is basically your house, right? And at the bottom here is the foundation. So you want to make sure that you have all of these things in order before even thinking about going up to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and things of that nature. You want to make sure the foundation of your house is intact. That means a will, that means a power of attorney, that means pre-planned funeral services like Minnelle will talk about. That means your emergency fund, debt management, critical illness, and life insurance, right? So you want to make sure that you have all of those things intact before you even think about kind of building net worth. Because what will happen is if you don't have the bottom part in place, all of this goes down the drain if something were to happen to you or your loved ones, right? So at the end of the day, you want to make sure you have that. Okay. What screen do you see now? Same one?
I can see your PowerPoint. You're in the PowerPoint application, and it's not starting from slide. Just go. You could just use it from there.
Okay, I'll just lose it.
Yeah.
Lose it from there.
It seems like it's not working.
Okay, so what do we want to insure first? Because we always insure our house, we insure our car, we insure our jewelry. But what's your most valuable asset? Your most valuable asset is you. You know, you're the one that keeps the house and the lights on. You're the one who keeps everything in order. And it's not really that big of a cost. If you really think about it, when it comes to your overall annual income, it's not that big of a cost. So I'm going to show you an example of a client I have. Can you see these numbers?
Yep.
Okay, so this is an example of a client I have. I changed the names, and this is their total combined annual income, their household income, right? So you see 40% of that is automatically taken off due to taxes. I'm sorry, you can't get away from that. Those taxes are going to be taken off regardless. Now, it's very important to look at your initial cash flow. So we have all your cash inflows. We have your vehicle, your car loan, your car insurance. That's about 4% of this client's income, right? Now, your home, that's a whopping 25% of your income that you're putting into your house alone.
That's
Right?
actually good. Some people are like 40%.
Yeah, some people are a lot higher, right? Then we move on to, internet, the groceries, your alcohol, maybe you have a pet, things of that nature. This client likes to go sailing, right? Then we go into your home improvement, your emergency fund, your travel. That's about 24%. Now think about this. We have your protection, the things that protect your income when it comes to anything that happens. We're looking at only 2% and 1% for one client. Now that percentage covers all of this, right? So so let's call it 3.7% covers well over 50% of your income. All right. So think about it that way. A lot of people will say, oh, it may be a bit more too expensive, or I'm not too sure about it. But look at it this way. This is all you're really paying. So if you can really look at your current income and you take maybe 2% of your current income, that's really kind of all you need to be spending on life insurance or disability insurance. Those are the things that will really protect you.
What kind of age are these people, Damian?
Oh, the same client that I had?
Yeah, this example.
They're in their 40s. They're in their 40s. Yeah. All right. So we want to protect your most valuable asset. That's your earning income. Can you guys see this? Let me just make sure. I'm still sharing, right?
Yeah, it's the spreadsheet still. Alexis and Jalen.
So with that part, I just wanted to show you that it doesn't necessarily cost too much. Think about it. Think about your annual income. Multiply that by 2%, just 2%. And that's how much you have to spend annually for your life insurance. That's all you need to spend, 2%. Now, your greatest asset, what is your earning potential? How much can you earn throughout your lifetime, or till age 65, actually, right? If you look at this chart, you can kind of see where in and around you stand, and that's potentially your earning potential. So if you're 45 and you make, 65,000, your earning potential is 1.6 million. So your job is to protect that earning potential, whether it be with disability, life insurance, or critical illness. You want to make sure that you protect that earning potential, right? Now I'm going to get into just simply 3 types of life insurance, right? And sometimes people get confused and they want to know, okay, I don't understand between term and permanent. But I just kind of broke it down into 3 simple categories, right? First one, term. All you're doing is renting. You're renting it for a time being, whether it be 10, 20, 30 years. You're just renting it. And after a while, after that term, that's it. That's all you have as far as life insurance. Then we have a permanent plan where you're paying the minimum funding, but you're paying it for the rest of your life. I would consider that leasing your insurance. And then we have the permanent plan where you will own it after a while. So you're paying the premiums, and then eventually you're going to own that policy. All right. So what's the best type of insurance for you? Well, term coverage, like I said, it's very cheap. It's cheaper. Your initial cost is cheaper. It pays out only if the insurer dies. The rates usually go up as you get older. So as you can see, as you get older, the premiums always go up. And then eventually the coverage will expire, right? Then you have your permanent insurance, right? This is the one where you're just going to lease. You're going to lease this coverage, and it's paying a level premium. The coverage never expires, and you have full control over that coverage, right? So the insurance premium will basically cover you for the rest of your life and stay consistent. And last but not least, it's your permanent plan. That's the universal life, or that's whole life. So the coverage, the actual insurance coverage, you have a cash accumulation inside that coverage. So you could basically use that money for a lot of various reasons. You can actually pull that money out and put a policy loan on it and pay for other things, right? So you can use a guarantee feature, which is 10, 15, or 20 years. Now the coverage never expires. You have cash value. That's cash that you can actually pull out, and you always have control over that policy. So that's the kind of the basics of life insurance. I don't know how much more you wanted me to get into depth as far as life insurance, Kevin, but
There's a question here. What are options for people with pre-existing conditions? And before you answer that, if you have questions, please speak up. This is not just a presentation. We're having a community talk. Also, if you don't want to talk, you can also write down your questions in the chat. So again, what are the options for people with pre-existing conditions?
Depends on the pre-existing conditions, but just it all depends. There are different smaller insurance companies that will insure you, like Canada Protection Plan. They're pretty good when it comes to pre-existing conditions. You should look into that. But there are options out there. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but at the end of the day, if you need that coverage, you want to make sure that you have it in place.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, that's the problem with insurance, because people like to get it. Sometimes people want it after there's issues. Sometimes that's why it's sometimes good to think about it even in your like 20s. I'm actually even thinking about getting a policy for my son, and he's not even 1, so he doesn't even have to think about it. So these are some of the things we could do just to plan ahead, right? There's another question here. My mother has life insurance with Primerica, but when she turned 60, they increased her premiums and lowered the value.
Mm-hmm.
How can you turn this type of situation around? Agreement was not honored.
Yeah, and then that's the issue. I don't like to bash other insurance companies, other providers, but I mean, when it comes to Primerica, I'm trying to be nice. I just find their premiums really high, extremely high, and they don't have permanent coverage. They don't usually have the option to convert your term insurance to permanent insurance. Now, as far as that question, it's very difficult because she's already signed that contract, and there's no real way out of it. You could cancel the policy and get another policy, but at the same time, you're going to be paying much higher premium. So something like that, I really have to go through and see the full circumstances of what's going on with that particular client.
So do you recommend, I guess, getting like a second or third opinion sometimes?
For sure. I tell clients all the time, get another opinion, look for another opinion. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but look for another opinion, right?
Yeah, just to make sure.
Just to make sure.
There's another question here, trust versus will.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have it?
The thing with trust accounts, and a lot of people like to talk about, I want to get a trust account. Now, trust accounts, they're not cheap. So as you have that trust account, you put the, I guess, the valuables in that trust, you're paying for that. You're always paying for it, right? So it depends on the size of your estate. If your estate is rather large, then yeah, you may want to start looking trust. But if you're not working with that much money, I would say kind of avoid the trust. There's other ways, cheaper ways that you can kind of use artificially create a trust. A good example of that is with a segregated fund. You can manipulate and kind of get the same things of a trust through a segregated fund if it's set up correctly.
So since we're all going to be rich, what are you thinking? Like, you're saying 1 million, 2 million, or 50 million we should be looking at trust?
As far as getting a trust?
Yeah.
I would say net worth has to be at least over $1 million. You want to make sure that your net worth, so that's assets minus liabilities, you want to make sure that's at least over $1 million for it to make sense. Because once you see the trust costs, then you'll start to understand. Another thing I wanted to mention when it comes to this is kind of off topic. Well, same on topic, but when it comes to wills, make sure you're careful on who you accept being an executor for, because you're responsible for that, right? So if someone names you as an executor and you're like, okay, cool, and they have a lot of debt and they don't take care of that debt, you have to take responsibility for that. So don't go willy-nilly in accepting an executor from everyone, saying, so your best friend says, hey, I want you to be executor on my will. You got to be careful with that.
Interesting. Is there any other question? We're gonna maybe switch over to Minnelle in a bit. Anybody else have any questions for Damian? While you're thinking, I have one question for you. So if you're sitting with a client and the client at the end says, "Oh, I don't need insurance," what's your selling point to make sure to hone in to say insurance is important and you should be thinking about it?
You know what? It depends on exactly how the conversation with the client and what their real values are, the real values and goals. I mean, I'm not one to push someone to get insurance. I'm more of the person to say, okay, you know what? You don't want it, sign off. I'll say a couple things. I'll say, look at your assets and look at, you have 3 kids, you have 2 kids. I'll let them look at their overall situation. And if at that point they don't want it, I'll get them to sign off to say that they didn't take the insurance. I'm not here to beg you to sign off on insurance and to convince you that you need insurance. That's not my job, So I don't really kind of go in on people and try to get them to sign off on insurance.
So somebody was asking for your contact. I put askdamian.ca. Is that good to go there?
Yeah, that's the website.
Or you could just put your info in the chat. Also, what company are you with?
I'm actually an independent broker, right? So I have a head office, MGA, with Hub and another company called Cart Wealth Management. The reason I do it this way is to give every single client options, right? If I were to say work with Sun Life alone, I can only sell Sun Life products. If I'm only with Primerica, I can only sell Primera products. But because I'm an independent broker, I kind of look at the overall landscape and see what best insurance company fits you, right? I will definitely go through a full financial plan, figure out how much insurance you need, or even if you do need insurance. Sometimes it comes down to the bottom line. You may not need insurance. Your assets are at a certain level where you won't need it. But again, I'm an independent broker. I make sure that I have as many options as possible for all of my clients.
That's actually a very good point you put there at the end. There's a lot of people that may not need insurance, but those are the wealthy ones who have their assets, who have the wealth. You may not need insurance because you have the money already to pass on to your future generation. But it's a lot of people who still have to work day to day, 5 days a week, to make that money for their family. If you're gone, now that money's not coming in. So that's why, again, term insurance might be a good possibility for people, the people who really want to work. Because 10, 20 years from now, you might have substantial wealth that you don't need insurance. Right?
I also say this, a lot of times, if you say, for example, you have several rental properties in Canada and you pass away, those assets are deemed to be disposed, meaning at your death, we're selling these. They're deemed to be disposed. So you have to make sure that you plan out everything correctly, because what's going to happen is all of your rental properties, guess what? You're going to have to pay capital gains on every single one of them. So what people do is they use insurance to offset that tax liability, because it's going to come. Mm-hmm. You can say, oh, yeah, don't worry, this property is going to pay for it, da, 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 da. You're going to have to pay taxes on those properties. So you might as well get either term insurance or maybe a whole life insurance, because that tax liability is not going anywhere.
Yeah. So that's why it's always good to plan, because everybody's situation is different. So you may need it, you may need a lot, you may need a little, may not need any. So it's good to sit down with somebody to even discuss and talk about this. So thank you, Damian. Hopefully you guys are talking about this stuff with your family. I know it's not always easy, especially with elders. As soon as they hear about death, they think the duppy's in the closet coming for them. So,
it's funny you say that, Kevin. I had someone that when it came to getting life insurance for her child, it freaked her out. She's like, that's the duppy sign. You're not supposed to get insurance for children. You're cursing the children. I was like, no, but this is the benefit of it. And I started going through the list of it. And she kind of understood after that.
Yeah, so it's good to have this discussion with your family. I know it may not be easy the first time, but bring it up. This is some important stuff that would help a lot of our families. So I don't want to see no GoFundMe, or if it is, sorry. I know some people have to support it, but I hate it because everybody is going to pass away. I don't know if you want to like it or not, but this life is not forever. And it's a good segue to Minnelle because I know she knows this life is not forever. She works at a funeral home. She's actually, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Minnelle, because she's actually helping us on Principal Evolution as as a consultant and helping us to kind of grow. We're trying to grow as an organization to help more people. We haven't opened it up yet as to everybody because I know we cannot take everybody right now. We want to make sure the quality is good, so we're trying to get better. That's why we're putting it out there that we could do some help. If you guys have any skills and are willing to help us, we'll love it. We'll like to work with you. So Minnelle has come on Principal Evolution to help us out. She also works at the New Haven Funeral Center. She's a funeral planner or pre-planner. So she'll talk about the process of actually when somebody passes away, the costs, some of the things you have to take into consideration. So I want to pass it over to Minnelle.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Can I do that little one step back for 1 second?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I may not have said everything I need to say. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I had a question for what you and Damian were just talking about.
Yes.
I'm not good at jumping in. But you're saying that someone might not need insurance if they have enough money to cover it. But I'm doing a quick calculation. I'm like, how if I even put in like basic insurance and I paid like $36,000, whatever, for insurance over 20 years, I'm still getting a really great return on that insurance premium, right?
Yeah,
so you
true.
can always consider it as an investment. That's how my brain thinks.
Yeah, very good point. But we could even go further into, I know Chosen is actually in a course on where you can use some of the cash value, loan it out to people, make extra money. There's a lot further deeper you can go. I just try to keep it on a very high level. We could talk about that at another time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. I'm going to try to share my screen here whenever I get a moment. But let me just say hello and hi. My name is Minnelle. I am the pre-planning funeral director at the New Haven Funeral Center. I'll quickly tell you guys about New Haven because I don't know if everybody, or you guys can just tell me in the chat if you know New Haven or not, but I'll show you a little bit of us. Anyway. So we're at Goreway and Dairy, opened in November 2017. I've been a funeral director for 20 years now. So I've been in this industry for a while. I have been doing at-need, meaning I am a full license. I've done pre-arranging, I have done at-need arrangements, I've taken out funerals, I've done embalming. So I have done the whole gambit of funeral services. And most people want to ask me why, because they think it's strange. I actually went to school to do pathology, to actually do the autopsies and find out why somebody died. And in that course, I realized that people are crazy. And if I actually continued in that program, I would never allow my family to bypass our driveway. So I had to come back and kind of do something a little calmer. And I had done a co-op at a funeral home. So I went back to a funeral home. And I love it. I love what I do because what I'm doing, your loved one cannot do for themselves. So I'm literally speaking and helping somebody when they're at their most vulnerable. So that's me, that's New Haven, that's kind of us. So we talked about it already, about what I do pre-planning and how our parents and we might not want to talk about it. So I'm going to do this in two parts, one for our parents and one for us. When it comes to making pre-arrangements, dealing with funerals for your parents, I've heard so many things. I've heard, I don't want to do it because I'm going to leave something for them to do. And I'm like, I cringe when I hear that, because as a parent, you're wanting, in theory, wanting to leave it easier for your children. And if anyone here has ever planned a funeral, you know how much is involved and just the process. So as much as possible, I try to encourage them to think of it as doing something good for your family as opposed to something hard you have to do. Anyway, that's one thing. Just so you know, you can make pre-arrangements for somebody else. So a lot of the times the women will come in and they'll want to do the arrangements and their husbands or whomever do not want to. So what they'll do instead is they'll make the arrangements, put it in their name and get it done for both of them. So there's a lot of men here. You guys can tell me kind of what you're thinking here with this, but of the research I've done, The number one reason that men, and specifically Black men, for what I've researched, do not want to prearrange is because they're releasing that control. And that was the reason that they're just like, I just can't sign this off because that's just saying that I'm not in control of when I die or what's going to happen in that moment. So yeah, true. I think they're going to survive forever. Right? I can appreciate that too. I will say the one thing that I do to kind of help families in those parts is to think of it as estate planning. And that really goes for us and what I'm seeing now in COVID, because who are doing arrangements now are not necessarily our parents, but us, and doing arrangements for their children. Like I have never done as many arrangements for 9-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Like I never. I had one family, she came on, she was 28. She's given me permission to tell her story. She was 28 and she wanted to do hers because she just needed to get it done. I know, at the funeral home, I see people my age all the time, right? So she was like, I need to get this done because I don't know what will happen for my kids. In doing her arrangement, we talked about it. She's like, okay, let me think about it and get back to you. When we're actually finishing her paperwork, her daughters are kind of coming in and she's talking to them about the process. We're going through the numbers and her daughter's 9. She's like, oh, that's expensive, right? And what ended up happening is that she's like, you know what? I'm going to do this for my kids too. And in explaining it to her daughter, what she's saying is, I'm doing this so that in 20 years, it's going to be paid off. You guys don't have to worry about it. And then you are going to have yours done. And then when you have kids, you can do the same thing for them and they won't have to worry about it. This is how we support the Black community. And this is how we create generational wealth. When she said that to me, I was like, I've never heard somebody explain it to a kid like that. So that's the why and the thinking behind making prearrangements, okay? All right, so let's go through a little bit of how you do this. So you can do prearrangements by creating a contract, or sorry, just having a conversation and not creating a contract. That means you're not exchanging any money, you're not doing anything that way. All you're doing is giving us the information that you need. And for your family, if you look at the reasons why people prepay, down here you're going to see the contract, below that you see makes your wishes known. That is that's a big part. If you can't afford it or you just don't want to deal with the finances right now, even writing down your wishes really alleviates the burden for your family. So when I say make your wishes known, I'm talking about the vital statistics. We have to register death with the government, and so we need lots of information. I highlight your SIN number because a lot of time people don't want to give us their SIN now, but it needs to be accessible for your family later on. Accessible meaning not locked in your safe, meaning not hidden in your what's that thing that everyone has? The valise. Anyone French? Valise? Suitcase. Thank you.
Know that word.
Thank you. Yeah, not hidden in your suitcase where we can't find that information. So it has to be accessible. Even choosing something like a casket. I use this example all the time because my mom tells us, I just want something simple. Great. To me, simple means eco casket, no interior. We're going for the basics. It's perfect. My brother would never. To him, simple means the metal, the vault, the purple one, the pretty. It's the same word, but it's two entirely different things. Right now, to talk about that is easy. The moment my mother has passed and we're dealing with all of those emotions, that's a fight. And it's such a small thing, but because we didn't know anything other than her like basic example of what she wanted, it becomes a big thing for us at the time because emotions are heightened. So something like that really helps as well. When I say easing the burden, that's just what I'm talking about, emotional situations, dealing with the questions. The price is locked in. So for my financial group, when you actually create a contract, so that's a prepayment. Pre-arrangement, no money exchanged. Prepayment, a contract is created, money is exchanged. When that happens, you're locking it in at today's price. So a lot of us have insurance. We have an insurance plan that will cover possibly our death, and you're welcome to do that. If you choose to have insurance pay for your funeral, make sure you have enough that will cover whatever the funeral will be in the future, because we don't know what that will be. right? You guys remember years ago they had that sorry, there's a question. Okay, 1 second. Do you remember years ago there was that that funeral plan everybody was getting, that $10,000 funeral plan? Well, you know funeral costs right now, $10,000 is only going to get you half. So you really have to make sure you got enough to cover funeral costs. I know, right? Sorry.
So were you saying the average funerals are about 20,000 now? Oh, dang, I was thinking 10. Jeez.
10 for the funeral. That is for a basic funeral portion. And then if you want the cemetery, go right ahead for another 10. Even if, and we'll get into like cremation and what happens in that, because it can still be the same cost. Dean, you have a question?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. If you do a prepayment, is that including the burial ground as well?
Yeah. So it can at New Haven. With me, I can't, because I'm licensed at a funeral home, whereas the cemetery is a separate license. But we've got friends, of course, that I trust at the cemetery. So when you're going to the cemetery too, same thing, right? You've got different people with different motives. Like for me, I'm not going to push anyone to get a funeral plan for any reason. If you want to, great. If you don't, don't. Like that's how I think about things. Not everybody thinks about that. Yeah, absolutely. 22. Yeah. I'm trying to be conservative with my numbers, but I mean, if you want a traditional funeral, meaning one day of viewing, service the next day, casket, vault, reception, catering, you're 12 to 15, depending on what you're looking for, and that's just the funeral home side.
How much? How much would be the burial for the ground cost?
I can give you a roundabout, but it's property, so it depends on where you are in the city, right? So it can be, you can get a basic plot itself for like $3,000-$4,000, but then once you add on all the other things, you're looking at about 10,000.
Yeah, because it is land that you're purchasing basically, and I'm seeing the cost of property in Toronto in the GTA, so I would figure about that much.
Yeah. And then what's cool is that the laws changed years ago, a few years ago. It used to be that you owned a cemetery plot and it could only be the people whose names are designated on that could use it. But now I can, right? So I can, as cemeteries fill up, if you've been in any Toronto cemeteries, you see that the roads are disappearing and they're creating more plots because eventually they're going to run out of space. So you can sell your cemetery property to somebody else. Something to
wow.
It's different. It's different because you have to find someone who's going to buy it too, but yeah, it's available.
I know like here it's different. I went through this process a few years ago with my grandmother, and we were doing this in Florida. They're like 4 feet under is water, so they can't dig too deep. But then here now, like we can dig much deeper. Is it like ways where 2 people can be on the same plot?
Yeah, okay. Actually, my grandmother passed in Florida too. So yes, we can do double depth. So you have one person below, the next person on top. The first person has to have a vault, and then the next person can just go on top without. So that will really lower your cost if you're looking at getting multiple plots.
When you see a vault, what do you mean?
That the concrete, you normally see it gold or pretty when you get to the cemetery. The concrete carry over, lower the casket into that concrete surrounding, and then the lid goes on and they bury both. In Canada, it's outside the grave, whereas back home, it might be the concrete already lining the grave.
Oh, okay.
Look down and see it home. You're talking about the plot. Can you sell the plot for more than the original cost? I don't know. I assume you could not sell it for more. I'm not sure. I know that
there are investors in here trying to find a way to make money. I was thinking the same thing.
I will say, here it is. I will say that I know that if you pre-purchase a cemetery lot, and let's say that your loved one decides, I'm going to move. I'm not going to be buried in Canada anymore. I want to go somewhere else. In that case, if you sell it back to the cemetery, you're selling it back at whatever you paid for it. So if you bought that thing back in 2000 when it was how much, and now it costs this, and you want to sell it back to the cemetery, you're selling it back there. So you're much better off to sell it across the board, somebody else at today's price. Mm-hmm.
There's another question. Is it true after 6 years you can bury someone in the same plot?
Not here. Not here. Home, like in Antigua, we do that. I don't think it's 6 years. I think it's more. But over here, no. Once you're in that plot, it's yours forever. You can, though, bury one person below. You can bury one person above. And depending on the cemetery, you can put cremated remains on top there as well.
Cremated remains.
I didn't know you're from Antigua. You can't go into Antigua because we'll go sideways. But the stuff I heard, because I've been to Antigua twice, my wife's family, they dig up people. Let me not start, but
listen, Antigua is a very small island and we only have so much space. And years ago, I was trying to be part of the team that was creating a new cemetery in Antigua. Nobody wanted a cemetery near them. So they're just going to have to deal with the one spot they have.
When I was leaving, they were building a new one, like my wife's family there in the Liberta. They're building a new small one off a back road, but I didn't realize how they dig up by after 7 years, they can dig them up.
But they're also not burying like what we are. Someone's asking about the benefit of the vault. The vault it helps to maintain the integrity of the grave. So you're putting the casket inside, putting the vault lid on top with the weight and with the concrete and with the plastic lining inside, or metal or steel or whatever you're choosing. No water, no bugs, nothing is getting inside. So that's the first protection. Some people do not like the idea of being with bugs and water. Some people don't mind. It's up to you. Also, if you ever get to the cemetery, you walk in and you see everything is flat and you see some graves have a divot. The divot is as the earth settles on the casket. Some people don't like the idea of the earth settling on the casket, right? So they want to maintain that grave. The vault helps to do that as well. It really depends on what you value when it comes to making your funeral choices. And these are the kind of things that you're going to want to put down so your family knows.
Those would be extra cost if you wanted to maintain that depth without, that would be an additional cost. If you wanted, how you just explained, so it doesn't sink down and you wanted it to maintain that height, is that an additional cost?
Then you would just purchase the vault. So the vault start at $13.95 for us. If you wanted one that's painted, and they can go up from there, and then it's covered for the time. Yeah.
I think Yvonne has a question. She had her hand raised for a while.
Yes, hi. I'm first of all, Prince PE. I just appreciate what you guys are doing. Always, you know that from time. This is all valuable information, and thank you so much, because this is something my family has been looking to do as we're preparing everything, wills and so forth. Question for you. What is the eco-friendly? So I didn't even know people do concrete. So to tell you how much I know about this topic, but what is the eco-friendly? If I say I want to be nice and kind to the environment, I'm gone. My body is, it's just my flesh is left. What is the eco-friendly way of burying someone in Canada legally?
I know. Absolutely. So I am the one member of the green team at New Haven. So I appreciate where you're going. I would say, honestly, the front runner in Canada is in Vancouver. So in Ontario right now, we have the eco casket that I was kind of alluding to earlier, which is a casket that has unvarnished wood. It has no metal or very minimal metal interior. You would probably choose something more like that. Even if you're going the cremation route, you still need to be enclosed in something. So you could choose a pine box in that case. Those are your options. We are coming in Canada, and it's arriving where there are more eco-friendly embalming fluids that will be arriving. We are going to take some time in those kind of things just because of the fluids that we use. We want to make sure that our skin looks right. So I'll have to see what happens with that in the future. But you can choose not to be embalmed if you don't want to. That does bring up other issues, and we can always talk about that later. Or you guys can let me know if you're comfortable with that. Yeah. So that might be your eco first part, and then the second part would being buried without a vault. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. If you don't mind, Kevin, I just want to jump on that
No,
again.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So you can't just wrap the person in a cloth and put them in the ground in Canada? Mm.
No,
Oh.
you have to be buried in something. You can even be buried in the pine box. The pine box is just simple. It has kind of a rope sort of handle, and you can be buried in that. It's perfectly suitable for burial, but you need to be in something, and that's just for protection because we don't know. Like we have no idea how someone will pass, what the situation might be. So for ease for the workers, for ease for the people that are attending, you need to be in something. So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. I love eco talks, so that's good for me. Let me just share again, and I will show you this last little bit. Oh, this is exciting. I'm very happy that you guys are, excited to talk funerals. So this is the first time I've ever done a funding page with numbers, and that's just for this group to talk the numbers of it. So I talked before about the two options of doing your funerals: prearranged, no contract, prepaid with a contract. Of the prepaid, you have two more options. One is through an annuity insurance portion, and the other one is through trust. If you do insurance, let's say I'm just using the easy number 10,000 here. So if you do insurance and you say, all right, I'm going to start it now and I want to pay it off over, I'm just using 20 years, the max there. So if you wanted to pay it off over 20 years, you'd be paying $73 a month. How that works with the insurance is you have to answer two health questions. If you say no to both health questions, after the first payment, your funeral is guaranteed. Meaning if you set it up for 20 years, you make one payment and pass at any point between now and the 20 years, we, the funeral home or whoever you choose, will cover your funeral costs. That's one of the big benefits of prepaying your funeral. Whereas if you say yes to one of the health questions, so someone was asking about health questions before, if you say yes to that, then it's 2 years and 1 day until it's guaranteed. What I see is that sometimes somebody will become a little too old for insurance. They can't afford the insurance premiums. In that case, the 82-year-old, anything over 82, for the most part, we'd be using trust. And trust is just straight payments. You can choose to pay it however you want to. There's no additional premiums or anything in that. You just have like a max, for the most part, of 3 years to pay it off. And that's wrong. That's 3 years. So I use this example to show you the difference of, I just use myself, at 38 compared to 82. Your options when you are younger and paying for it over a period is so much better. Of course, there's insurance because you're younger, as opposed to if you wait until you're older on a pension, which is what I see a lot, trying to fit these premiums for two, on a pension income can be kind of difficult. So if you can, do it a little younger, go for it. And then Kevin, you were talking about if you die outside of the city and you want to come back, then you get something called a travel plan. Oh. And that's the one that covers your costs to bring you back anywhere outside of the perimeter of the funeral home. It will cover the cost for you to come back. As an example, I had a girl who passed in Cuba. In Cuba, like you've got to deal with consulate, you've got to deal with translators, all of that. So it flew somebody from here to Cuba, one of her family members, to sign the paperwork. And then it flew everybody. So the person who went and brought her back as well. So that can be really good. But if you want to stay where you lay, meaning if I go to Antigua and I pass in Antigua, I just want to stay there, you don't worry about a travel plan because you can just stay there. And then if you have a funeral arrangement done, it gets paid out to the funeral home wherever you are.
Okay, one question. So if you do this pre-planning, what if in the future you decide Canada's too cold for me and I want to go live somewhere else, and then you move? What happens there? I guess you're tied to the plan, or can you move, or I don't know. I don't know how you could I don't know how that works.
It's up to you. So I've had some families, what they do is if I want to retire somewhere else and I don't even want to be connected to this anymore, you can cancel it. You can also keep it, and then it will just pay out wherever you are in Canadian dollars. So as an example, if I had 10,000 Canadian dollars to bury me in Antigua, I'll be fine. So there's that option. Or you can have it paid out to the beneficiary and then they can do whatever they want.
Okay, that's good to know.
Let me just talk a little bit about insurance. and I'll speak to you guys about just things and trends that I've seen in funeral services over the years. And I talked before about making sure you have enough insurance money to cover your funeral costs. Also, be aware of who you're selecting as your beneficiary and how things might play out. We all know that, you know, our families, maybe we've got two siblings that don't really talk, you know, and then at the funeral time, they got equal portions of the insurance policy. So now it's, in theory, the thinking probably initially was that they would both pay, you know, equal portions. But when, and this is just what I see, maybe, you know, one person is dealing with something hard in that time, or who knows what's going on. If they don't take that insurance money because it's being paid to them and they don't use it to pay for the funeral, it's either left to the other person or, you know, it's just left to the devices at the time. So try to be clear and try to be, I don't know, as smart as you can when planning for your beneficiaries. And unfortunately, you can't list the funeral home as a beneficiary. Like, you can't put us on your list of payees because of our regulatory board. It can't work that way. If you have an insurance policy that allows you to assign your insurance to a funeral home, we could do that, and then that insurance money just goes over. But not many insurance companies do that. For the most part, it's just the ones that work with the funeral home. Okay?
So you have seen like siblings or family members get into a lot of heated, I guess, discussions over decisions when people pass?
So 20 years, right? I would say, yeah, a lot. And like times like this during COVID, like everything is heightened. So a lot of family disputes, because emotions are so high and everybody is like, offense can happen quickly. And then you're just like, there's just so much division that can happen. The finances can become, you know, yeah, it can get hard.
What are some of the common, or maybe if you touch on it, because I was kind of in and out with the contractor long distance just now, so all over the place. But what are some of the common issues do you think that people, or mistakes, or maybe missteps that people make that cause these confusion? I know you mentioned right now with regards to beneficiary and so forth, but any other little things that you can mention, what you've seen over your time doing that as well?
Yeah, not talking. So talk to your family. There's another part. So there's wills, which we'll still get to, and then there's advanced care planning. Advanced care planning is talking more, you're going into more depth at this point. So you're talking about your funeral plan, also kind of the things that you care about, and then even like keep having those small conversations about what your wishes are. So if I'm in the hospital, I want to be on a ventilator. I want you to do everything you can, keep me alive up until the last moment. It can be, I want you to make sure that I can watch the Jays and drink a beer. Like whatever your wishes are, those kind of things just snowball. So as much information as you can give your family ahead of time, they don't have that guilt of, you did this, you should have done this, we should have done, you know, that kind of guilt is alleviated. So as much as you can share, that would be my big tip, as much as you can share, do that. Just know that sometimes your will isn't read for a while. Make sure you tell somebody where your will is, and make sure you tell, like you have to, in theory, tell someone that they're going to be your executor. However, if you do something like a holograph will and write it all out yourself, it will be on you to make sure that you have that conversation with someone. A holograph will. That is when you write your will. You can do that tonight. Take a pen, date it, write your own will. It can be challenged, of course, because you're writing it yourself, but you're just writing out your wishes. And that's the start. If you're not going to do anything else and you at least have that as a start, it helps your family. So that's something you can do. Of course, I'm going to suggest you go to an actual lawyer and get it done properly.
So quickly as well, like, because I thought I heard you say hologram will. Like, do people do video? Like, I know you written, has that come into a thing yet, or like, where people give like their lap?
We talked about this at one of our presentations. Yeah, I know we talked about this with Joanna at one of our presentations, and I don't think that it's here yet. I don't know what the future will hold, but as far as I know, I don't think it is here as yet. No. Sorry, there was a question here. Do we offer group plans for churches and organizations? Maybe, not typically. So typically we don't offer discounts, but you know, there's always an opportunity to I don't know. Let me find out. Let me not say anything before I get in trouble. DM me, send me an email, and we can talk. Can't speak for the company. I try to keep it like this, even in my arrangements, just so you guys know, right? Even at the funeral center, if you've been there, it's light, it's airy, it's Caribbean, very much so. But we know that you're already coming in and dealing with a lot of emotions and a lot of things. So as much as we can, if we can make it more welcoming, that's really what we go for. So yes, New Haven is Black owned. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is it the only Black owned funeral home in GTA? Oh, it's not?
No, no, there's two. There's two in Canada.
Oh. Hey, they're both in the GTA?
One is in the East End and we are in the West End. Yes, yeah. So, but we are actually probably one of the largest funeral homes, point being out, because it's 30,000, just under 30,000 square feet. So white, black, or any, yeah, we're still making moves. Yeah. The insurance you spoke of on the slide, is it specific to you? Yes, yeah. So the insurance plan that I was showing with the pricing there, so that's an insurance plan specifically for funeral purposes. And that's how we're able to create a contract with locks in the price that way. Yeah. Okay, let me just look two things here.
There's one more question. Will you own your funeral? Do you own the funeral grounds?
Yes. Yeah, so you have a certificate of ownership for your cemetery property. Mm-hmm.
No, sorry. The question is, when will you start to own funeral
grounds?
New
Haven?
New Haven, yeah.
I just did my funeral plan because I was waiting. I didn't want to do it at any other, I've been in the industry, right? So I wanted to go to a funeral home that I knew. So I just did mine with New Haven. Listen, the moment we get cemetery ground, I'm moving my plot right over. So I don't know. I hope we do. We'll see what the future holds.
So, I'll tell you, because this is I'm a part of a number of different organizations, and this is one of the topic that we come up with, especially our church, being specific to the community that we're in. We're always trying to figure out, like, when can we own, like the Catholic have theirs, everybody have theirs, when will we have our own? So anyways, I'll rally that for y'all.
Thank you. I'm with you. I absolutely am with you. Yeah, and you know what? I will say, the tide this year, especially, of the Black community supporting this funeral home, like it warms my heart and it gives me so much pride, because we're really coming together as a community saying this is our funeral home, and I love that. I think it is beautiful. I have tips for you. When making funeral arrangements, pre-arrangements specifically, make sure you decide on what you want to have. Because I'm going to go through a whole bunch of options. You can, to give a quick example, you can choose, I want to have funeral, a casket, my vault, I want to have my stationery, my flowers, my reception, my pallbearers, the pallbearer gloves, the limo. There are so many different things that you can choose. Mm-hmm. Decide, even in your mind ahead of time, kind of what do I want to include in this plan? Because you don't have to put everything on a pre-arrangement. You can choose to include just the basics and say, I'm going to get you started. If I cover these basic costs, you guys can add on the reception. You guys can add on the others, but at least you're getting the basics covered. Or you can choose to get it all. And in doing that, you're going to find what price fits your budget, not just now, but moving forward. And then if you hear of anybody who has funeral arrangements and has come upon a hard time where they can't keep paying for it, tell them to call the funeral home. What I see is Mama will have a funeral plan already done. And then, the years get longer and she can't pay for it and she'll just stop paying for it and not say anything. You're paying an insurance portion as well with this, right? They're going to take their money first. So let's say you've got a $10,000 plan. You've paid $5,000. You're halfway through, but then she stops paying. They start taking their money until nothing's left. And she ends up with nothing in the plan. So call the funeral home, and what I can do is say, all right, let's rejig what you have in your contract, so at least you're still left with something, because I've seen that too many times.
That's why we need to talk. We need to talk. Don't be shy.
Yeah, that's it.
So we're getting to the end. If there are any last questions that you want to ask, please ask now. I think you were going to go over the differences with the burial and the
Cremation?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. So if you wanted to have, just because people think cremation means nothing, you can still have a full funeral. You can have a viewing with your body present. You can have everything still continuing and go for cremation. So you can have your same service, the same traditional service, like whatever that costs, it can continue on. And then at the cemetery, rather than just going for burial, you'll be going for the cremation. So whereas the burial plot altogether 10,000, cremation, $700-800. However, what you need to continue is saying, what do I want to do with my cremated remains? Because people will say, just cremate me, and then what? Because maybe your family won't want to keep you at home, And then you kind of have to have that conversation, because if you're going to go back to the cemetery and bury the cremated remains, there's your cost again. If you want to go to the cemetery and go in a niche in a wall, there's your cost again. And if you, just so everybody knows, if you ever want to go into a wall, like, when you get to the cemetery and you see people going into the wall for entombment, just take out $20,000 and put it there. All right. So it depends on where you're going. It can really add up quickly. So doing this ahead of time, small chunks, right? Paying for it with small chunks rather than getting a bill for $20,000 that you have to pay in 15 days.
Damian said some people smoke the ashes. What? For real?
What?
David said some people smoke the ashes.
I've seen flowers. I've seen people put them in rose gardens. I've seen them turn into rings.
Okay, do you have to pay if you're going to dash it in the water, like in Lake Ontario or something? Are you able to do that? It's illegal.
So in Canada,
I did read something about that. I think they're trying to make a section in the Bluffers Park or somewhere for religious things or some.
Maybe, because it was at the cemetery years ago. You could go to a scattering garden in the cemetery and scatter your cremated remains there, and then they stopped that. So I think it's interesting to think that
they want to charge everybody money.
Yeah, but most people just bring them home. Put your cremated remains in a wood or some kind of container that can be X-rayed. Carry them home, and then.
Oh, interesting. There's a question. Can you bury the cremated remains with another burial or casket?
I'm being recorded, right? So no.
Okay. Why, thank you.
No. Legally, you cannot. Legally, you cannot. No, you can't.
We were making mention of the embalming quickly as well, about that little. Do you want to touch on that quickly as well, like the controversy or the bothersome with the embalming? Because I'm not, I know embalming when you die, but I don't really have too much idea about it or what people are bothered about, or is it the material that people are bothered about that is being used?
Embalming. What I think I understand what is embalming and the reason behind it. Embalming is it's a way of preserving. The definition is the preservation, restoration, and disinfection of the human body. And what that means is, I'll tell you it this way. If I pass right now, and I go from here directly to the funeral home, I will, for the most part, look the same. Whereas if I pass in a different situation, maybe I live in a very, very hot house, as an example, or who knows, right? Like, who knows the situation in case of a fire or something like that, I would not look the same. Embalming is a chemical process, a chemical way of helping to preserve you and to restore your look. Or even a better example, like sometimes you're at the hospital and they're due so much, so someone then has lots of water retention, right? And they just don't look the same because of all of the swelling. We're able to reduce that with embalming. if that helps. But it's chemicals. And so for some people, they don't want to have the chemicals involved. You just want to keep things as natural as possible. So then you'd go without embalming, and we try to make concessions that way. I hope that answers.
So just quickly then, because I don't want to sound morbid, like, and especially if people who had a loved one pass recently, but like, do you look more like without? I know with embalming, you know, you've seen probably a lot of bodies as well, like, you know, the person looks all like all blown up, but if you don't embalm, they look like sucked in, like.
It can vary. It can really vary. You know what kind of work I say. Our goal is to have you look like the picture that you provide us as much as possible, including like things like small things like the shine, you know, things like that make a difference in what you're accustomed to seeing, my glasses. Without it, you can look very different. And I can always go into it in more detail with you. It's just, I don't know how everyone feels. I don't want to go into too much.
Can I ask a good question?
Yeah, I saw it. Yes.
So you mentioned something about cremation and the cost. I don't remember what you said. Like the difference between being buried or being cremated and taking the ashes home.
Okay. So let's say that your funeral portion was $10,000 with burial. It would also be, or it could also be $10,000 with cremation. So what's happening at the funeral home would be the same, because for us, either one, whatever you're doing after the funeral home is where it would be different, but for us, it would be the same. So that's one side. And then with regards to the disposition, if you're thinking burial, altogether, you know, I'm just using the $10,000 as a number, consider that. If you're thinking cremation, it's $700 for the cremation. And then what? You want to choose a burial plot for your cremated remains. Do you want your cremated remains to go into a wall, into a niche? And would you like your cremated remains to go home? If you choose to fly home with them, then you'll need to make sure that they're in a container that can be x-rayed. And in that case, you're fine to just carry them home. No extra cost there because it's just a flight. Oh, I forgot about that. You can also, of course, send loved ones home. You know, we do a lot of repatriation, so that's another option as well.
I guess what I was asking was more so not flying ashes home, actually just taking them home, like keeping them.
Oh, sorry, home, like here. Sorry. Yes. yeah, you're absolutely welcome to do that. In that case, the cremation, $700, you can choose an urn either from the funeral home or whatever you'd like, and then just keep them at home. Yeah.
So in that case, it would be more like $11,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So you're reducing a lot of that cost. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a question here about headstone. Do you know roughly how much headstones cost?
I do not. I will say that in my roundabout 10,000, it is included in that.
Okay. All right, so we had a lot of good discussions. Thank you guys. I'm gonna wrap up.
Funeral planning.
We can also have this discussion again. We will be having these again. Again, this was part 2 of the Financial 101 session. We will be doing these again to make sure that this is something that we as Black people talk about often. Thank you again, Minnelle, for sharing the information. It's always good to talk about, but again, talk with your family about this, friends and loved ones. Have discussions about that. I know it's not easy, but sometimes these are the discussions we need to have. So again, thank you, Minnelle. It was great. We learned a lot. I have to plan out a few things myself.
Yes. I would be thinking leaving this. I feel like there's nobody that either you already had it planned or now you're thinking about it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Minnelle did put her information out there. Please reach out to her. There was one quick question about Gary, Indiana. So I think next week we're going to have a good section on Gary, Indiana. We're going to talk about the rehabs that we're doing with PE and the possibilities investors getting in on those investments. So we'll have a section on that next month. And we're also going to talk about Carl actually recently was able to take back get a mortgage, a Canadian mortgage, to buy something in Gary, Indiana. I know he had to go through some stuff to get that, but he actually got it. So it's a way that you can use your credit here, your financing here, to actually do some deals in the States. So again, we'll have a section, I guess maybe our first section, we'll talk about Gary, Indiana and what's going on there. And what
day of the month is that? It might be down there still.
Well, you might have to do a road show. So it's June 8th. We're gonna be doing June 8th. So if Kelsey is here or not, we're gonna have that discussion. If anything, if he has to pass on the information, we're gonna have that. And then go ahead, sorry.
No, we can have him remotely too. We have him on grounds.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You could do a road show and still do it. So we're gonna have a session on that because I think there's some people are interested in that, and we are looking for more investors because we're actually trying to do a lot more in Gary. So again, I want to thank everybody. I know it's past 9. I don't want to go too far past 9. Again, we're going to meet up again next month. We're going to send out some information. Again, let us know what you like, you don't like. If you have any topics that you want to discuss, please let us know. Again, thank you, Dean, Damian, and Minnelle, for spending your time and giving us all that great knowledge. Hopefully you guys got some good ones out of this. This is a recording, so we'll put this up. Hopefully within 1 or 2 days we'll send out an email and we'll send this out. So if you guys missed the beginning or some sections, you guys can review. Okay.
Make sure you reach out to the people here as well. Like when they're ready to, as right now they're in the mood to give it, like Minnelle, Dean, and Damian. Like, reach out to them if they have whatever they, or if they have anything going on and to invest with them or to, their program or whatever they offer. But let's keep that money in the community. Let's keep the knowledge circulating as well. And we love action. We all love action. This is what some of the premises group was started on. Chosen will attest to that as well. This is one of our premises. A lie?
No lie. Sorry, one more thing. They actually are saying, what about the course? And I actually did forget to talk about that. We are having an options course where we're setting up, and from the very beginning, it's a basic options course. So if you do not know anything about options trading, we are starting that course at the end of the month. I think a few months ago we had Sanj on here talking about options trading. I know a lot of that might have went over your head. That's why we wanted to do a more intense course and people who are looking to maybe make some money trading options. It's going to be from the basics as if you know nothing. So don't feel like you need to know anything about stocks to get into that. We will be starting that up hopefully by the end of this month, if not very beginning of June. It's a paid course because we have to pay people for their time. He's going to tell us a lot of strategies and stuff that he uses and how he trades. So if you're interested in that, send us a message, WhatsApp, Slack, on the Facebook group, or even from email. Just let us know. Okay? So have a great night. I don't want to keep you guys too late. We'll meet again next month. Hopefully soon we'll be in person when this COVID thing dash away.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
All right. Bye.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone.
Guys, good night.
Oh, sorry. There's one more thing. Minnelle has a pre-planning booklet if anybody's interested to start the process. Please just email her if you're interested or if you have any more questions, or reach out to us. All right. Have a lovely night. Take care.
Mom, I'm still on the thing.
That was good. That was good.